In 2019, we began to build our dream.
But the journey started long before you were invited to watch.
We walked a path that spanned nearly 2 decades.
There were times of joy, pain, and everything in between.
Our lives have completely changed, and we're ready to tell you how it happened.
We're not holding back.
Our mistakes, regrets,
What we wish we could change, our best decisions.
and if we do it again, you'll hear it all.
Come back in time with us behind the camera and answer the question,
Is self-building worth it?
Episode 1 is self-building worth it. The first video is going to be about clearing land. Any comments before we push play?
I mean, this is probably one of your favorite things to do.
Oh man, I wish I could go back and redo this.
Yeah.
With some of the attachments that I have now.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and play it.
All right, let's go.
All right, welcome to the Marshall remodel, and this is going to be the first video for the Mad County 30 build series. To give you a little background on what we're doing out here, this is 30 acres that my wife and I bought in Madison County, Iowa. Right here, I'm just talking about like the background of what we're doing, but we bought this piece of property, what is it, 30 acres. The entrance was really steep. It's still really steep. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I would change, is that I would have dug that out more.
Right.
We had decided we were building a post frame building. Mm-hmm. Did we have plans at this point?
Oh, I think at that point we had some graph paper. We had drawn a ton of different options on and stuff, but I don't know how solidified we were.
I guess the property was really overgrown, and that's what attracted it to me, was because I knew that with a little bit of sweat equity, I could increase the value of the property if we didn't decide to build. But I had it set in my head that we were building. So
yeah,
I guess one of the things you got to think about is, if you buy a piece of property that needs land clearing, most of you are going to be in the same situation as Emily and I, is that we didn't have all of our own equipment. So what I did is I rented a small excavator. I did have a trailer to haul it, but it really took me a few days to clear a lot of the trees, at least get them dug up.
Yeah, you did we had bought a skid steer like a few years before that, and that's probably something that we would recommend that if you're gonna invest in anything for this type of project, like get yourself something like a skid steer.
Yeah.
It's really versatile. It will be useful going into the project, during the project, once the project's over. It's probably the most useful thing. And then you can have those like littler equipment rentals throughout.
Yeah, I would highly recommend, if you're gonna go into this self-building journey, you got to have kind of a base machine, and that would be a skid steer, because it is so versatile. Mm-hmm. You can pretty much rent any attachment for a couple $100 a day.
Right. Yeah, so depending on where you live, and then like we found a company that they're pretty flexible in terms of their locations that they serve, and they're like a third party that will contract with the local rental places. So it's really easy to find in most locations the equipment that you need. And tools, like you talk about tools in this first video, and that was something that while we had to buy some hand tools and saws and things like that, you had quite a collection at that point, because we had been remodeling projects for the better part of a decade.
Yeah. I can see right here, I'm digging the driveway out, and I would say this is one thing I want to put an emphasis on. When you put your initial driveway in, get the grass and all of the organic material dug away, and then put down 3-inch rock, because that is going to be the base of your driveway. And if you go ahead and just put finished gravel down, it's, through the build process, you're going to be bringing in concrete trucks, you're going to be building in dump trucks, and all that stuff is going to get beat up. So put 3-inch rock down, a base of 3-inch rock, build your project, and then put all your finished gravel on. I guess one thing I would change, and it's hard for some of you to see, is our entrance to our driveway is a little steep, and I was looking at it from the standpoint as I didn't want people to see up in here. I didn't know we were going to be running the business we're running now, so it is a little bit more difficult for me to get my truck and trailer and stuff in here, which we've kind of remedied that at this point. But initially, make sure your drive in and out of your land can handle, cement trucks, semis for deliveries, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because if it can't handle that initially, then like there's a chance if you live in a cold weather climate that it's going to be difficult in the winter. Like ours gets a lot icier and hard to navigate. But at the end of the day, don't discount the value of good site preparation. Yeah. That is literally the foundation of making sure that your project goes smoothly. It will cost you less money in the long run if you spend the time and invest properly in getting your land ready to build on.
Yeah. I can remember how I was feeling at this point, like just being able to get started. And
yeah. You were pumped.
Oh, I was super pumped. I mean, look at me. I look like I'm about ready to... I mean, that's excited for me.
Yeah, you look like
I might not look excited, but inside I'm just like, getting to run my skid steer, getting to rent some equipment, getting to tear down some trees. But it's really, like, I'm sure all of you feel that way. You're finally you got your land, and you're going to start building your dream. And for me, I was super motivated. I guess one thing that we should probably tell people is the fact that I literally quit my job to do this.
Right.
Which not everybody is going to be able to do or is going to want to do.
Right.
Just our past is what led us to this point. And I'm like, I was ready to just control my own kind of destiny.
Yes. Like we had spent so many years scrimping, saving, living debt free in almost all scenarios, even to the point where there were multiple times we didn't have a mortgage on a home. And so then our huge motivating factor was being able to be our own bosses.
Yeah.
So that's part of why you quit, is because you were just ready to control your schedule, not work nights, not work weekends.
Yeah.
This was the first time literally in our entire relationship that you weren't doing that.
Yeah. But just looking at these pictures of before there was anything here is just, oh man, it just makes, you're going to not be happy that I'm going to say this, but this makes me want to do it all over again. It just pumps me up.
Yeah. So is self-building worth it?
I don't know. It is to me, as far as episode 1 goes, it is for me.
Yeah.
But one thing we did experience, and you guys are probably going to experience something similar, is when you think you're going to start building, Mother Nature might have other plans. And I remember this was like in April, I think. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be building by May. And it was the wettest spring in the history of Iowa. And we didn't start building until like August. So that is one thing. You have a timeline, and most likely that timeline is going to get messed up. So you kind of have to build some leadway in when you're thinking about going a self-build journey.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so you guys can see what I was doing, but Emily, where were you and what were you doing?
Well, we had 3 kids. They were 4.5, or 5.5, 4.5, and 1.5. So I was pretty busy. I think that while you were clearing land, one of the things that we were doing, or that I was doing, was that I actually had a hysterectomy right before we started building this house.
Yeah.
So I was dealing with some health issues and stuff. And so that was a pretty major thing to have happen in our lives, on top of trying to take care of the kids, having just moved into a townhouse.
Which kind of brings up a thought in my head, is one thing that I think would have been great for us is, and we didn't know at the time, but our condo was 35 minutes from here.
Yeah.
So I would travel out here, work all day, and then I would go back, we would eat dinner, put the kids to bed, I would edit at night, and then I'd do it all over again. So we were both worn out, but if I had to do it over again, I would have tried to find, and this takes us back to like me getting us unlivable things, but like a old single wide trailer or something we could have pulled on here.
Yeah.
Started out with like a living space here on site that we could have easily removed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know if a camper would have been the right thing for us, but like
No, our winters are so harsh.
like a single wide trailer that we could have resold or something.
Sure, which it kind of goes back to your driveway conversation, is that the driveway was so steep we couldn't have gotten.
Well, you'll see later on, we did get, we actually got a 40-foot Conex box, and I told them to bring it on a pickup and trailer, and they brought it on a semi, so I had to send it down the road, and we never ended up even getting it in here.
Right, yeah.
Which
yeah.
that's another issue is, what do you do with all your tools?
Yeah, right.
I literally built out, and you'll probably see in the videos later on that I literally built a second story in an 18-foot enclosed trailer to house everything, and then I would literally like tunnel my way through to try to find the tool that I would need at that time.
I mean, we definitely show you some of the hardest ways to get to the finish line. Like, we definitely took the path of most resistance in some of these situations, because yeah, I mean, now looking back, because we absolutely love the community that we live in. And so I'm like, oh man, we should have moved down here like right away, but we didn't know any better. Like, we had just started forming a bunch of relationships. We went to a phenomenal church up in Des Moines. We had friends. So for me, that was the lifeline. That was like I was kind of
community.
Yeah, because at that point, to be quite honest, I was kind of hanging on by a thread, emotionally, mentally, all of those things. Like, I just had been just through so much over the past few years that I was at my wit's end just by waking up in the morning. And so to have those friends around me, I think that, so looking back, we say it would have been super cool to be on site and stuff during this whole process, but maybe that was okay that we weren't. Maybe that was for the best. Maybe that's what actually kept me going long enough to get here and be able to kind of recover.
Maybe that's why I still have a wife.
That you never know. You never know. I mean, I think that, if we're going to name names and things like that, I mean, there's a few people probably that should be mentioned that are probably some of the reasons that we still, Miss Tenny, probably.
Yeah.
She was
a good support.
Yeah, think people like that. So yeah, so that's where I was at and stuff, and so I wasn't nearly as thrilled about all of this as you were. I just, but because I was just cashed.
Yeah. So I think, kind of in closing to this first video, those are things that you're going to have to think about, like what works for your family. Is moving on site the right move? Is having a stable home, like a rental or something like that, the best for you? I mean, everybody's different. Like, everybody's capacity for challenge, for hardship, for the way they live, depending on, our life would look much different with our kids the age they are now versus them being, they all needed our undivided attention. So that will make a difference in your choice too. So where you are in the country, how cold does it get? How hot does it get? All that stuff comes into play. But I think, we were in that mindset of debt free. I quit my job. We had so much money in just a certain amount of time to get this done that's what worked best for us.
Yeah.
So I guess with that being said, we had a mortgage on the land because at that time, Barndominium's banks weren't really loaning for them. Mm-hmm. So our mindset was, hey, we'll put the percent down we need to for the land. We'll pay cash for the house. And we'll explain how that all went as we go through this series.
Yep.
I think that's it for episode 1. All right, so that's going to be a wrap on episode 1. Is self-building worth it? Episode 2 is an exciting one. It's gravel.
Yeah.
Which there are a lot of things to talk about when we get in there, because that was one of our biggest budget mistakes.
Yeah.
Was gravel. So as always, we appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, share us with your friends, and we will catch you on the next video.